Welcome back to the Life and Stripe podcast. This is episode 203. On this episode, we had Dr. Bill Evans on the podcast. This is one of those episodes where we learned a lot. The conversation flew by. All of a sudden, we were at well over an hour, and we did not touch all the topics we wanted to get to. So we will have Dr. Bill Evans back on the podcast as soon as possible. But yeah, he's a PhD in exercise physiology. He's a professor of exercise science, a wealth of knowledge. We talked about a lot of really helpful stuff. What is threshold pace? We talked about VO2 pace. We talked a lot about Achilles stuff. If you have a lot of Achilles issues, this is a helpful podcast for you as well. We talked about how mental running is versus physical. Super interesting stuff. So a lot of other topics too. This is a really useful episode. I hope you enjoy it. I'll have his Instagram in the show notes. Highly recommend to follow. But yeah, if you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review, drop a comment. We read all the comments and share with a friend. We will catch you on episode 204. When we're running through Norton Commons or the Pewee Valley area in Louisville, Kentucky, it's pretty easy to spot Mason Construction Home. The attention to detail, the quality, the stunning design, you can't miss it. It stands out. We aren't just saying that either. Our own co-host Scotty trusted Mason Construction to build his forever home, and he and his family couldn't be happier. Don't tell Scotty this, but we're at his house a lot because we love the home. He's all right too, though. If you live in the Louisville or Southern Indiana area and are thinking about building your forever home or doing a remodel, there is nobody else to trust with this project than Mason Construction. The link to their website is in our show notes. Click on the request information option and start the conversation about what your forever home could look like. Yeah, so my race is Houston, but I came off a stress fracture. I had a sacral stress fracture in the summer, so I've been running for about 9 or 10 weeks now. And
Wow.
I've been running, been a little aggressive with the training. I did a pretty big week last week, so hopefully I don't get
So
injured again.
you, so off of 8 weeks, you ran sub 240 just casually.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like,
He
yeah,
was
I could say
coming
like,
off of a 222 marathon in
Oh, I'm well aware, but still.
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. It was
it is
good. It was
Where was the 222?
Bayshore, so it was in Traverse City, Michigan at Bayshore Marathon. It's a small marathon up on the peninsula. It's a,
Is that
I,
is that the
yeah,
one they do all the loops around the lake?
that's it.
it,
Grand Rapids Last Chance, maybe. You're thinking
Okay,
oh
of.
yeah.
yeah, that's it. That is it. Yeah, yeah. No, Bayshore just like goes up and down, out and back along the lake. It's a beautiful course. Highly recommend.
Oh, cool.
Highly
Dude,
recommend.
that's awesome. I'm so nervous for this weekend, guys. You caught me at a very scatterbrained time.
What's going on?
Oh, I mean, it's just like I don't know if you guys need to do intros or how you normally do this or what your strategy is.
Oh, you're good.
But
We-
yeah, so obviously I'm running the Richmond Marathon. I thought it was a really flat, fast course.
No.
Turns out it's kind of hilly. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I wasn't super prepared for that. And then during my build, I was like, I've never run a marathon. The longest race I've ever done is a 10K. And some of my friends were like, you should do it. Like, you'll never do a marathon. Like, I was more of a middle distance runner. And so I was like, no, I'll do a marathon. Like, I'll run a 100-mile a week. I don't care. Um, and that was like my pride got the best of me. And so here I am. I'm running the freaking marathon. And then I saw like, I'm sure you guys are familiar with this space, but there's, like the whole hybrid athlete thing.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so you got like, I don't even know the guy's name. I think it's like Truett Haynes or Truett
Yep.
Hayes or something like that. And then Nick Bear, who went to my rival college. So I went to Slippery Rock University in Western Pennsylvania. And for context, I did not run there. I was a NARP, a non-athletic regular person. And he went to IUP. And so he's like a,
Okay.
hybrid guy. People like love him in the like high rock space.
Okay.
And I was like, dude, this guy ran 236 or something. Like, he's jacked. Like, I have to be able to beat him. Like, if I can't beat him. And so I created this like MJ type enemy in my brain that like Truett Haynes or whatever and Nick Bear are talking smack. And I have to win. Like, I have to beat them. And so I was like, I'm gonna run 240 my first marathon. That's my goal. And again, I'm not a marathoner. Like, like I'm more speed. Like
What's the 10K PR? And I'm curious to hear about your training for this marathon.
yeah.
Marathon.
So I ran my first 10K last year, ever, and I'm 32. So I was 31. I ran a hilly 10K. I think I ran like 33:20 or something.
Nice.
Um,
Great.
and but like down the board, my 5Ks get like, you're like, oh, that's not bad, and then you're like, oh, that's pretty good. You're like, oh, that's respectable. I'm not great, right? Like for context, I quit running when I was 18 years old because I had back surgery. So in high school, I was like a 4:30 miler, two flat 800 guy as like a sophomore, and I was like, this is it. I'm gonna run in college, and then I just had like a bunch of injuries.
Right.
So then I quit running for like 8 years and picked it back up in 2000 and I guess 2019, and I was like, I'm just gonna break two flat. And I was in grad school, and there was the club team at Maryland, so I was like, I'm just gonna do this. And I ran like two flat like three times in a row, and I was like, I just don't have it. Like I'm too old. It's never gonna happen. And then I started training a little smarter, and ended up running like I don't know, like 156 or something. And then started training with a group called Georgetown Running Club. And so I don't know, are you guys familiar with them?
Yeah, I've heard of
Heard of
that.
it. Yeah.
DC.
Yeah, they're super competitive. Like
Yeah,
I
they're
had no business being on this
very
team.
high level. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the only reason I got on is because the coach likes guys with leg speed, and I could run for the Milrose games. He likes it for their DMR. He was like, that guy can run our 400 because we don't have a guy who can break 55. And I was like, I think I could run 52 tomorrow. Like, I think I'm good. And so that's the only reason I got on. And then training with them for like a year, got my PRs to like good places. Like my 5K went from like 1640 to 1520. My
Whoa.
on the track, and then my 8K went from like 2640 to like 2528 at Philly at Rothman.
Wow.
And then my mile went from 434 to 415. And then my 15 went from like 410 to 358.
Wow.
So I was just glad to be like, getting better as like I was like,
Yeah.
exercising these demons. Um,
Dr. Bell, tell me about how you were able to come back and do this successfully. Like you had a back injury when you were 18. How were you able to
yeah.
like come back and all of a sudden the back injury is a non-factor? What was the difference in your training and recovery?
So really it comes down to, and I think this is the case with any injuries. And so I think, I posted the one paper from the group at BYU. And
Oh yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, that's like one of my favorite papers. If I'd known that when I was 18, I probably would have run in college. But so essentially, I had to do a lot of core strengthening and hamstring stretching. And frankly, when I didn't run for all those years, like I was strictly doing strength work. And so I think I got up to like, I don't know, like 185 pounds, and I wasn't running at all. And my back was actually in really good shape. I was doing like a lot of RDLs, if you're familiar, or
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
like straight leg deadlifts. Um, two of the most important things you can do for your low back, though, are to strengthen your core, your hip adductors or abductors. I always mix them up. Abductor, you're getting abducted by aliens. That's something that I teach my
Yeah.
class.
Your leg
I like that.
instead of in.
You
Yeah.
you like that? You're gonna take that with you. And then so hip abduction, core strength. So like a ton of planks, flat planks, and then side planks. And then you want to stretch your hamstrings, and you do not, absolutely do not want to round your low back or flex at the back almost ever. So if you ever heard like the McGill Big Three, or um, like the Cobra pose, right?
Yeah.
So back hyperextension. I'm not a huge fan of that, just because like my back's fine without doing that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
um, pretty much I had to really, really, really work on all that stuff. And I actually had, I had um, degenerative disc disease, or DDD, which most people have. It's just mostly
Yeah.
asymptomatic.
Yeah.
And so I think like 30 to 40% of people will show up as having it, maybe even more than that, but only, a smaller percentage have actual symptoms.
Yeah.
And then once I returned to running, that's really tough to do. Like taking all that time off. So my mileage buildup was very, very gentle. And I actually did all of my easy miles on the elliptical. So Parker Valby would have been proud. I walked so Parker Valby could run. I mean, she really took after my approach. Um, and that was really the key. So I ran like 157, and I was only running like 10 miles a week. And it was all coming from
Wow.
was pretty much exclusively just the workouts, right? And luckily that's an 800, so you can get away with that. Like
Yeah.
it's a speed event. So um
So you're really
but
working on like more explosive, fast
Mhm.
twitch muscles versus like the marathon on the other hand is more slow twitch grindy stuff. That makes a lot of sense that you would be able to perform at shorter distances with that method. I, you know, the back thing is that really stuck out to me. I saw that piece of content that you put out as I was looking at your page today. So my family has a history. We're tall. We have a history of
Oh,
bad lower backs. And my mom listens to this podcast. It comes from her side. So I want you to talk. I want you to talk to my mom in this and kind of break that paper down a little bit more for Lisa Perkins,
oh, okay.
the pod mom.
All right, Lisa. Well, Lisa, I don't have this paper directly in front of me, so I'm going basic. I'm going off memory a little bit here, but essentially what they did is they took lifelong runners, and I think they categorized lifelong runners as people that had been running for at least 10 years consistently. And I want to say their cut point was at least like 50 kilometers a week or maybe 30 miles a week. And the highest group, I think they had people running upwards of 80 miles a week or something like that. So like
Mm,
a lot of running.
Yeah.
And essentially what they did is they took them and they just did a like a general MRI, right? And so what you'd expect from the notion of your peers is that the more miles you run, you're just going to break down your knees, you're going to break down your back, you're going to have hip surgery at 27,
yeah,
and your life's going to be over, and you need to be in a wheelchair.
that's the narrative.
Um,
Yeah.
right, but that's not what the literature shows. And there is a point of diminishing returns on the far end where you're running like 100 and I don't know 30 miles a week. Yeah, you do that forever. Yeah, well, you can cross that bridge when you get there. Um, but what they showed is that not only were the discs did they have more fluid in them in the runners, but it was actually dose dependent. So in people that ran more, they had larger discs or more fluid in them. And if you have disc degeneration, you'd actually expect them to be more compressed. This is why you get shorter as you get older.
Mm, yep.
And they also use a quality metric, which I think has to do with the brightness of the MRI signal. And so your disc is like a jelly donut. The outside is very tough. And it's actually much more rigid than a jelly donut. I'm like, man, if my discs are made of jelly donuts, it's just a sugary mess all down my spinal cord. But what happens is the not only are they taller, but the brightness inside of them is it's more there's more contrast. And so
Mhm.
that suggests that the disc is also in better health. It's not just that it's
Mm,
got the fluid, but it's also in better
interesting.
health. So and like I said, the interesting part is that it was dose dependent, right? You would expect to see at some point, right? There's kind of like this up, it's good, it's good. Oh, it starts to fall off, right? That's what we see with most running related injuries and volume is that at some point you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you recommend running as an activity that could strengthen your lower back or your discs in your back?
Uh, as someone that's not a physical therapist, I'm gonna put my hands up and be like, I don't know.
Sure.
I what I will say is that there is evidence to suggest at a population level that at least correlationally, and there could be other factors, right? People who run more tend to live healthier lives,
Hmm.
right? They tend to be more aware of what they're eating, what they're drinking, hydration, all things that will influence low back health. They're also probably doing strength work. So there are other factors that may influence that relationship. Um, but usually what we say is motion is lotion, right? And so, um, I don't know what your guys' thoughts on chiropractors are. I think there's kind of this notion that some people are like, oh, they're great, or oh, that's the worst thing ever. And I don't really know about that, but what I do know is that people who exercise and exercise consistently have healthier backs. But I would say that volume and intensity are two of those things that you absolutely need to monitor. Just like anything, if you crank intensity too high, or you crank volume too high, or you do it too fast, you're going to get hurt. So
Yeah.
that's usually like that rule of thumb holds true for almost everything.
Totally.
Yeah, this is helpful because not only did I just have a sacral stress fracture from increasing intensity too fast, but I also have an L5S1 disc bulge that I constantly have
Mm.
to be on top of. So, yeah, this
Do
is
you have do you have the pain down your like leg, your low back?
yeah, when it gets bad, yeah, I do.
Ooh.
Yeah, I get
Do you
like
do planks?
Yeah, I do planks. Yeah, I do planks, and I actually do like the Cobra. The Cobra thing seems to help me, but
Yeah,
um,
no, that's a good one. That's like a go-to.
yeah, I think it's something. It's the something protocol, Macmillan protocol, maybe or something like that. But
It's
it's
escaping me right now. Mackenzie
McKenzie
method. Yeah.
McKenzie method. Yeah, and that helps me a lot. But yeah, I have to like constantly be on top of it. So
Did you guys
maybe
know that the Mackenzie method is like a whole thing? It's not just like the low back. Like people are
oh
like,
yeah,
you can use the Mackenzie method on any joint. And
yep.
I was like, yeah, I've been like trying to get my jawbones to sit a little higher. So I just like try and hyperextend them, you know? Um,
I didn't know that.
no, that doesn't work. But yeah, it's like a whole, it's like a, almost like a religion. It's like, oh, these are the Mackenzies.
Something else that I wanted to touch on besides the back is the calf raises. So people always make
Mm,
fun of me because I always tell people like when they have Achilles stuff or just like
mm.
any injury, I'm just like do 3 by 15 calf raises twice a day. It'll change everything. And
Change
then
your
I saw
life,
your
dude.
video, and then I was like, I'm gonna send this to everyone that's ever made fun of me because the calf raises are awesome.
Well, that's me. I'll raise my hand and I'll tell you why that I make fun of Chris is because whenever I have Achilles pain, it flares up and I do my calf raises and then it hurts more. However, if I bought this isometric board. It's called a Mobo board, and you
Mhm.
get basically a disc on a rocker, and it has a foot insert, and you put your foot on it, and you rock forward one way, and you rock forward the other way on both feet, and that helps. And I think the reason is because it adds a lot less stress than a normal calf raise does to your
Mhm.
Achilles. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Dr. Bill? You're the expert.
Oh man, call me Dr. Bill. You don't have to call me that. You can just call me Bill. I just put that as a bit. You can call me Bill. But so so tendon issues are on one hand they can be very straightforward. On another hand, they can be very complicated. And here's why. Tendons don't respond the same way as muscles.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people think that they do. And so if you have a tight muscle, what do you do?
I would
This
Uh,
it's
t-
this is not a hard
yeah.
question. Your muscle is tight,
Typically, people stretch it. Yes.
you'd
yeah,
stretch
foam
it, right?
roll,
Okay.
whatever.
Woof. All right. All right. Question one. You guys are passing my exam. Um, but that's actually not really what you want to do with a tendon. And the reason is because those tendons, they usually adjoin or butt up to a bone, right? And so that will actually compress the tendon and that will cause more pain. When you have a tendinopathy, usually the tendon is, assuming the acute reparative phases are done, usually there's not as much structural damage as you'd think. It's actually the nerves and blood vessels that grow down into the tendon, and we call this a neurovascular ingrowth. And so when that happens, it's more sensitive, right? But it's not necessarily structurally impaired, right? It's not compromised necessarily. It can be, right? If you think about like Kevin Durant or Clay Thompson playing on an injured Achilles, theirs were structurally impaired.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
but oftentimes it can just be a pain sensitivity thing. And so usually, to work with an Achilles, you need to do three things. So Jill Cook has done a ton of stuff on Achilles work, and pretty much what she's shown is that isometrics are the key to kind of starting your Achilles or any type of tendon rehab. So you want the pain, you actually want a little discomfort, you want a little stretch, and depending on the nature of that pain, if it's insertional, like over your calcaneus, which is that bone on the back of your heel.
Down in the bottom, yeah, in the very
Yeah,
bottom where it
yeah,
touches the heel is insertional. That's what
right.
I had.
Okay, yeah. And so I have Achilles tendinopathy. I have it both in the mid tendon, which is a little higher, and then also in the on the bone because I'm dumb and I did a 20 miler too hard. And so these are two of the things I'm worried about for my marathon. But when you actually want to rehab those slightly differently, and it's because you want to avoid those very, very uncomfortable positions because the tendon is getting compressed on the calcaneus
Mhm.
at the bottom, but in the mid portion, the compression doesn't happen as readily, right? Because there's not a bony structure there.
Makes sense.
So you want to do isometrics first. Then you want to usually progress to what I call overcoming isometrics. So what this will look like is if you were to put your hands in a door frame and just push up into it as hard as you could with one leg, right? That
Mhm.
would be an overcoming isometric. And you want to do this at a little past neutral. And then finally you can progress to eccentrics. And that's like the textbook thing you want to do. And then if you're at a phase during your eccentrics where you're not having pain, then you want to do some like concentric, heavy, strong calf work. And some people will do all three. They'll do isometric, they'll do a cycle, isometrics, or sorry, they'll do eccentrics, heavy, slow strength, isometrics, eccentrics, heavy, slow strength, isometrics, because they get and you can like play with that depending on like how their
Yeah.
pain responds. But that is really the kind of like textbook research go-to for really any tendon, but especially your Achilles.
Yeah, I would say Achilles is probably the most common that runners get, especially if you live in a hilly area like Richmond, Virginia, or Louisville, Kentucky, and even St. Louis, as we have our fair share of hills here by the Mississippi River. So the other one that's really, I guess, popular is like runner's knee. So would you say that that formula that you just outlined, isometric, what was it, constricted, isometric, if you're pressing?
Yeah, so you wanna it's overcoming an isometric. So you wanna
Overcoming isometric.
yeah. So you wanna load it a little different. Now, runner's knee, if I'm understanding it right, I sometimes I mix these up because some people call things like jumper's knee, runner's knee, patellofemoral, whatever. They've got all sorts of names. But if it's the one where the back of your kneecap gets inflamed along the cartilage of the back of your knee,
Mm-hmm.
then, and again, I'm not a physical therapist. This is just what I know from the literature. So I want to be very clear. I'm not giving like clinical advice here, but
Yeah.
go see your physical therapist. Unless you can't afford it and don't have health insurance, then do what I told you. It's a cheap option. Um, but you're right, because like I'm not a clinician, so I don't want to like prescribe. But I would say for the runner's knee, typically you need to strengthen your quadriceps, because from what I remember, there's usually a weakness in either the lateral portions of your legs. And so the kneecap, which if you straighten your knee, you can take your hand if you relax, you can slide your kneecap around,
Mhm.
right? But if your knee is bent, it's not really moving, right? It's in a
Yeah.
fixed position, because you have tension across it as well as compressive forces pushing it down. So it's in a nice happy groove.
Mhm.
But when you have imbalances in your hips or you have weaknesses in those smaller muscles, it's my understanding that essentially the larger muscles just start taking over and pulling it out of place, right? And so instead of it floating along this nice groove and axis, you're now pushing it just a hair where you're starting to get some rubbing. And that is really what'll irritate the bottom of that. Like, I'll kind of give you that like textbook runner's knee.
Yeah.
So for that, usually you want to do those hip abductions. And honestly, for most injuries for runners, if you go to any physical therapist and you say, "Hey, I'm a runner," you just bait them in. Just bait them in. Be like, "Hey, I'm a runner. I'm having some like pain in my lower leg." They're gonna do some eval and they're gonna say, "I got it. Here it is. You have weak hips." And you're gonna be like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, I had no idea. Like, how did I have weak hips?" So 99% of things, probably I'm 90%. You just do some hip abductions, you're good to go. You're set.
Dude, that's why I
Like
tell everyone, you gotta do the Myrtle routine, man. You gotta hop on that Myrtle routine. And
the Myrtle routine, hit me with that. I'm not familiar with it.
oh, you're not familiar? It's just I don't know. I'm trying to. I'll have to send you a link to it, but it's a hip strengthening and glute strengthening routine. It's just like it's a good warm up for like pre-run too. That I always tell people to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Little glute activation.
yeah. And I have
Yeah.
chronic like IT band issues and stuff. So
Chris, it's because you're running 130 miles a week.
it's true. Yeah, this is true. Yeah,
He literally does.
I just finished a 7 mile run for 20 on the day in the pitch black out there. Running on a busy highway and got chased by two dogs. It wasn't a great run. So
Oh, dude. So tell me something. How is running where you guys are at? Like I visited there once. I played a French Lick golf course. I'm an awful golfer, but I
Oh,
like
nice.
it. And I can't afford it either, but people wanted to go. So um tell me about like what's it like running and training in that area? Like how do you guys like it? How'd you end up there? Are you from that area?
yeah, so we're both from Louisville, but Danny moved to St. Louis. But
Wait,
yeah,
are you guys in Louisville or St. Louis? I'm sorry.
Danny's in St. Louis and I'm in Louisville. Yeah, and Scotty, who's
Oh,
not here, he's also in Louisville. So, but we're all from Louisville. So, but running in Louisville is great. It's fairly hilly, but we have a awesome park system. And then it's like we have just the normal, seasons all the way around. So the winters aren't horrible. Summers are pretty hot, but no, yeah, the running here is great. There's an insane running community too.
oh,
Like,
really?
yeah, probably one of the best in the country if I had to say so myself. Yeah, just There's always one run.
Georgetown Run Club. They're listening, dude. They're
Yeah.
ready for the SmackDown at clubs this year. They're training for it. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Pound for pound, Georgetown's winning the relay, for sure.
Probably, yeah, probably.
But you won't find like a more like everybody on board positive attitude, just like open community to new people and all the way from top to bottom skill level wise and everything.
Oh, that's awesome.
Group than in Louisville. I mean, it is really special.
So what club do you guys train with? Or Chris, I guess what club do you train with there?
So there's a club here called Corf Edge. It's a play on two people's last names. That's usually like the group we run with, but we have a team through this podcast that we meet up with some too. But yeah, that's the main group. It's called Corf Edge. It's just a play on two people's last names. They started a run team in Louisville, and yeah, just meet people through that. They have a big Discord chat, so it's fun.
Oh,
time.
nice. Okay.
Yeah. Discord's fun, man.
Are you in DC, Bill?
No, yeah. So I did my PhD at the University of Maryland. It was the 5 hardest years of my life.
Really?
And so I spent a lot of time there, but now I actually live in Burlington, North Carolina.
Okay.
Bigger, better Burlington, not to be confused with where the Coke factory is.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Elon University. So I don't advertise this super often, but I'm, at this point I talk to my chair and he's cool with it. So I'm an assistant professor at Elon University, and that's also where I was serving as an assistant coach. So I was working with them for the past 2 years, and then recently just stepped away, mainly just because I didn't want to. I didn't want my like personal coach. Like you can't coach and be a D1 coach, right? You can, but you run the risk of recruiting violations. So I actually just recently stepped away so I could kind of explore more independent coaching.
Do you coach more like what age athletes do you coach? Like adults, high school or college?
Oh man, you name it. If they want to be coached, I'll work with them. So I've got the youngest athlete I have is 14. I think the oldest athlete I'm working with right now is 51.
Oh, wow.
So actually, is it 40? Yeah, 14 to 51. So really anything in between. And like, I'm sure you guys coach, right? Or Chris, one of you guys coach? Or
yeah, we all do. Yeah, we all do.
And I would say our age range is very similar. The lowest we go, was probably like 18 or 19, and then we also have someone who's 51. So
okay, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming you guys mainly do stuff online. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much all of it. Yeah, we have some local here. We have actually quite a bit of local people in St. Louis and Louisville.
Probably 25 to 30% are local, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's fun.
Well, stay off my turf, boys. No, I'm just kidding. But
fun.
Yeah, you don't come to the triangle. No, I don't really care. I have a job, but I do love coaching. And so like I'm sure as you guys are aware, like so much of coaching is more about the one-on-one and just like individualized, and so much of it is the soft skills and just like reaffirming what they already know.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know if you guys experience this, but writing my own training is the worst, right? Like doctors are the worst patients, coaches are the worst runners in terms of like their own training, because you just get impulsive. You're like, oh, I would never do this for somebody else, but I know better. I mean, I am just above the bar, right? And
are you a runner? Do you need running shoes, gear, apparel, more? If so, I got the scoop for you. Kencom's Running Store is the best place to buy any running supplies you need. Located in the St. Matthews area of Louisville, Kentucky, the friendly staff will take excellent care of you. If you are a newer runner and need help finding the right shoes, or you're looking to get plugged into the Louisville running community, this is where you need to start. If you don't live in Louisville, check out werunlou.com. We have a discount code and the link to the website in the show notes, and the shipping is free for purchases over $100. I promise you, Matt and team are the friendliest people you can meet. Don't hesitate. Get your running supplies at Kencom's Running Store and support an amazing local business.
I don't know if you guys experienced that.
Yeah,
I experienced it 2 days ago in the Indianapolis Marathon. So
what happened?
Yeah, I know.
Tell me what happened.
Just kind of mismatch with fueling strategy or training during the block and then fueling strategy on race day. It's a, I've handled this before. I can do it on race day, so I don't need to practice it. And, sure enough, your stomach kind of knots up at mile 17 and you're in for 9 more miles of pain. So
Did you bring any dude wipes?
it wasn't necessary. It was more like dry heave action.
Oh.
It wasn't, but I'm sure like a dude wipe would have been pretty nice to, have
Be able to just
for
I
safety.
mean, I'm packing them, and my
Yeah.
plan is to have the wipe. If I need to stop, it's just simultaneous use and wipe. I'm not even gonna hesitate. I'm getting in and out. I mean, I'm not taking my time.
Yeah, Scotty doesn't leave the house without dude wipes. So if he were here,
Oh,
he would
really?
have, yeah.
Oh man, if only.
Did
Yeah.
But
he allegedly won number 2 in the most wild spot today on the run. I won't say where, but yeah.
please,
The-
you can't just bait us in with that. Was it in someone's front yard?
it,
He's
it,
done that
it,
before.
it was near, like it was in a spotty area in a neighborhood for sure.
Is he not allowed near like 150 feet of like most public facilities at this point?
Yeah, like elementary schools, churches,
Yeah.
you name it. He's just not allowed. It's just a given.
Um,
Yeah,
I,
he's
I know
great.
you're having me on the podcast, but I am curious because I asked. So Danny, your goal is to break 240. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what was your previous PR? And considering I have the same goal,
Yeah.
what would you tell a fellow sub 240 shooter?
Yeah, so my previous PR was 2 hours 40 and 59 seconds. That's official chip
geez.
time. That's official chip time. And I was going into this thinking that maybe I could have a good day and run a 238, and took it out just a little too hot through half. So I would say
What was your pace through half?
we went through half at 119.20, so we're on 239.40 pace.
Baker's fault. I mean, that's
238
just
40.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had like a fun pack, and it was just like let's just roll with it. But yeah, we should have like made our own pack a little slower probably.
And I was pressing too. Like it was.
Could you tell?
Yeah. Could I tell?
Like when you say you were pressing, like, again, I'm so new to the marathon. Like,
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about
I
my
could
build
tell.
and hear your guys' thoughts.
What
But
you want to feel through halfway, Bill, is you want to feel like it's stupid easy. Like you want to feel like effort, should be 6-7, 6-7. Through half.
Wow, that was good.
And then that you can either press until 20 and see what you got left, or you can just hang on and run your pace. So if I had to go back and run Indianapolis Marathon all over again, I would slow the average down to like 6:05 per mile, and I would be fine going through half at like 1:20, because guess what? Like that's PR pace. You know what I mean? And you just have to run 1 second faster on the back half to get that goal. So
what was your per mile pace through
6:03, 6:04.
It was like 603 high, I think. Yeah.
6:03 high, yeah.
So is it really that sensitive where it's like a few seconds are just gonna like
I think so. Yes.
I would say 30, 40 seconds at halfway can be, like anything 30 seconds plus, like, it can be a little sensitive for sure.
okay. Next question.
And
Do
that's
you
2
push
seconds a mile. That's 2 seconds a mile. You know what I mean? So it doesn't seem like a ton.
Yeah, no, I'm not that good at pacing. Do you push the hills or maintain effort?
Oh, maintain effort for sure.
Effort and take what it gives you on the down.
Yeah. So go a little faster on the down.
So like if I Richmond's got a few hills. If I come up that bad boy at 620, should I be like irritated, or should I be like, you know what, it's good, I'm gonna get it back?
I'll say that like 20 seconds in the grand scheme of a marathon is nothing. I mean, less than a second a mile.
Yeah. I would.
So.
Yeah, I would be comfortable going up it. Yeah, and just use the downhill, speed up a little bit. Yeah, that's what I would do. But yeah, I think it's like if you the thing is in the marathon, if you like use one of your matches a little too early, it like you don't get it back. So you gotta be careful burning matches.
And if something goes wrong at 17, like you're not just gonna get your tummy back feeling good again. You know what I mean?
What if I poop though? I mean,
dude, I would have rather stopped and pooped in a bush, and so I could get it back. But it just, I mean, that wasn't the issue, I guess.
oh no.
Yeah.
So what are your? I'm curious. Can I ask you guys questions? Am I
Yeah,
allowed
let's
to
go.
do that?
Oh,
Let's
of
go.
Am I
course.
breaking? Am I breaking podcast rules?
No, but I mean, I have a ton I want to ask you too about.
Okay, this will be my last one. I promise.
No, you're fine.
Um, what are some of your indicator workouts that you're like, hey, you're in this shape?
Ooh, I mean, the big one we always talk about is we do a 5-4-3-2-1. So it's like a
Okay,
three or four,
textbook.
yeah, 3 or 4 mile warm up, 5 miles marathon pace, and then a mile float in between all of these. So it's 5-4-3-2-1 miles at marathon pace with a mile float in between. So it's
Hmm.
like 15 miles of effort. That's a good indicator. And then Scotty uses 2 by 10K a lot during a long run. So yeah, 2 by 6 miles essentially. And marathon pace. I think long tempos are really good too, like 7-8 mile tempos, 10 to 15 seconds faster than the marathon pace. I think those are good
Yeah,
indicators too.
I don't think I did a single one of those, but we'll see.
What
Um,
what are you like banking on that tells you you're in 240 shape, sub 240 shape?
so I actually like if I'm honest with myself, I think if I had marathon experience, and maybe this is just hubris, but I think I could run 235. Like I think I am physiologically capable. Like I've run 1520, I've
Yep,
run
100%.
358. Like I'm like I have trained with people that have done that. I've beat people who have run 235 in races, but it's not a marathon. Like it's a different, I mean, it's different muscle fibers, right? It's a totally different physiological experience. And I'll call it an experience because I think that's what it is. Um,
Yep.
and so I did two separate works. I did a 16 miler at 5:47.
Oh wow, that's
Um,
great.
Yeah,
and then I did a 20 miler where I did 10 at 6:01 or something like that. 5
yeah.
at like 6:15ish, 6:20, and then 5 at it was supposed to be half marathon pace, but turns out if you don't drink water and you suck like me, it's very hard to run that. So my last 5 was at like 5:58, 5:57, and so it was like 20 miles at 6:03. It was a bit much.
How long ago was that?
4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't do it last week. I did it. That was like peak. That was my peak workout. That was my like. This
I'll
was my
say,
white whale. This is it.
yeah, I'll say this. If I had an athlete run goal pace for 20 miles, then I would probably say you're an idiot. You just blew
Yeah.
your race. But with what you said about your like 5:47 pace 16 miler, it seems like you have a little bit more of the tank than sub 240. It seems like
Yeah,
you're gonna be just fine
yeah,
ripping like a 234.
yeah.
That
I
would
would agree.
be. I'd probably if I did that, I would crap my pants and like out of excitement, not because of the goose. Um, but it's like anything. Like until you do it, it doesn't mean anything. You know, like it's
Yeah.
like you gotta. And I know so many people that have been like, this is my goal, and they get there and they run like 20 minutes off their goal, and I just don't want to put myself in that position. I feel
Mm.
like so.
Man,
What do you run for easy pace? What are your easy miles at?
Mm, like 7:45.
Okay.
oh, good.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's good.
I'm like
That's
sometimes
good.
8:30. I am not
That's
when it
good.
comes to easy days, baby. Easy days, easy.
I'm with you on that, man.
I jog mine. I just ran 8:30 pace for my double.
Bill,
Yeah,
you're a
dang
dog, dude.
straight.
I can't wait to track your marathon. That's gonna be awesome.
Oh no, this is one of the things I'm afraid of. Is like they're gonna see it, like
All the people listening are gonna check up on it.
You're gonna do
oh,
great. And I'll say this: like one of my best performances was at the Philadelphia Marathon for the level of fitness I was in, and that's
I love
very
that. I
sport.
love
Yeah,
that race, dude.
it's a great race, man, and it's super hilly. I don't know like how it compares to Richmond, if it has more or less rollers, but yeah, some people just perform well on hills, so I wouldn't take that. I mean, if you run the course smart, you can do well. So yeah,
I'm just gonna run dumb, guys.
just
Run
run
dumb.
down.
Why not?
Yeah,
First
no
one.
one plans on not running smart. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I just mean run dumb, like don't overthink it, like go out there and like just run and like don't do anything stupid in the first half and see what happens on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, Dr. E, speaking of training, I want to get your take on threshold pace. I think threshold pace
Mm.
gets thrown around a lot and not always used in the right context. And
Yeah.
I liked you made a video. The way I describe it, and there's different levels of threshold, right? Lactate threshold 1 and 2, like, but you had a video, it was like, it's essentially like what you can run for an hour, like an hour race, like what you could run. But I think
Hmm.
in the video you're like, you should be trying to extend it over an hour. I don't know. Maybe explain like what do you think of when
Yeah.
you like think of the term threshold?
Right. So I think threshold should in reality describe your lactate threshold, right? It should describe an intensity that elicits a blood lactate of 4.0 millimoles, right?
Yep.
And so I think it's millimoles per deciliter. And so 4 is what we consider your onset of blood lactate accumulation, because there was a study, I think, in like the 1980s where they measured lactate thresholds of like X amount of people. And they showed that basically, when you measure a lactate threshold, we just looked at it. We're running a study right now on double threshold training versus high intensity interval training.
Ooh.
And
Send
yeah,
me the results of that, please.
I
I'd be super
will. I
interested in that.
will. Yeah, it's a cross sectional study, so we're just looking at two groups, but we're also measuring their mitochondrial function at a local level. We actually need more participants in our high intensity interval group, which is surprising. So um, if you guys know anyone who want to do that, I'll come out there with my little lactate analyzer and poke you. Um, but so threshold pace should realistically be um, comfortably hard, right? Like I know
Yep.
that sounds crazy, but like you shouldn't be pressing. Like if you cannot do, you should be able to do 8 by mile with 1 minute rest at threshold pace. Like, and that should be comfortable. Like
Yeah.
it should not be hard. Um, so for example, one of the workouts I did this session or this build, I did 8 by mile with 1 minute rest, and I averaged like 522 or something. So, and I know that my lactate threshold is, I think it's like 510 to 515, like looking at the actual data, right? And it differs a little bit in like how you measure it, but um, so I think sometimes people think that your threshold needs to be like hard. Like it needs to be like super hard. You need to be like pushing. You need 2 minutes rest. Like, no. Like if you cannot do it, if it's a rep longer than 5 minutes and you cannot continue that pace with a minute rest and it's a 5 minute or longer rep, you're running too hard. Like you're
Yep.
not running a threshold. You should be able to do 400s. And it changes, right? Because if you're doing a 400, you're going to see your lactate rise, and you need to run faster, right? Because there's a delay in the rate of lactate accumulation. It's not like you just start running and all of a sudden you're at 4, right? It takes time. And so if you're doing 400s, you need to run a little faster, right? So if I was doing 400s at threshold, like a classic Yakov workout, 20 by 400, 30, 45-second rest, whatever, I would run those at 70, probably like 76, 75 to 77, right? And so that is actually faster than my threshold. But because the distance is so short, like what you want to see if you were to measure it is just like bumps, right? And you're slowly riding that
Mm.
wave higher and higher. Um, so if you're doing a 30-minute threshold run or a 30-minute tempo run, and your like heart rate is 185 and your max is 200, like you're running too hard. Like it's not even, and I think that's the most common mistake is running too hard, not running too easy.
Yeah, yeah, I love that description. I think like that is perfectly how I try to describe it to people, is comfortably hard. Like I literally use that phrase all the time, and I think that's the best way to describe it. And yeah, I mean, if you're not using a lactate meter, I have one now, and it's super fun to use. But
Nerd.
yeah, yeah, total nerd. It is fun. You like, you put your blood in, looking for the data, and you're like, oh, like I can't wait to see what the number is. But
Yeah.
yeah, comfortably hard. Like I usually tell people like 7.5 out of 10, 7 to
Hmm.
7.5 out of 10 type effort. But I like what you said too. Like, I think it is important to explain that on 400s, like shorter intervals, that you have to go a little faster than you would on like longer intervals. And for me, and I think most people, what they do if they're doing a double threshold is in the morning, they'll do those longer intervals, miles,
Yep.
2K, stuff like that. And then in the afternoon, they'll hit, shorter intervals like
Yeah.
400 at that faster pace.
600. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty, I
So
mean, the bread and butter of a double threshold is exactly like you described, right? It's going to be 1Ks between 1K and 2K in the morning, maybe 2400s or 3Ks. Like it could be really anything longer. And then in the evening or afternoon, like you're really just, and this is where I'm wondering, like, if these thresholds are really just a function of volume and not necessarily like, if you read the original papers, they're like this magical number, this magical thing where your fascia and your tissue and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's not what's happening. Like you're just getting more work. And I think that's all it is. Like instead of getting 6 miles of work, you're getting 8. But yeah, you want that evening session to be a little quicker. And there's neuromuscular adaptations too there, right? You're trying to drive that threshold down so you're more fit.
Mm.
And I did want to address, like, to your point about like extending that hour out. It's not so much you're trying to extend the hour, right? It's more that like you're trying to increase the pace and thus the distance you cover in an hour. So you're not really ever gonna. I should rephrase that. In elite endurance athletes, like if you were to look at Eliud Kipchoge, right, and
yeah.
you were to measure his blood lactate during his race, and then you look at like me, right? He is probably going to be able, and it's different, it's individualized. He's probably going to be able to sustain higher blood lactates throughout his race than I can. Why? Because I'm a coward. Um, but also what happens is you get a desensitization of your pain receptors, right? And so
Mm.
when you have lactate doesn't cause fatigue, right? I say this in one of the videos. This is like the easiest way to tell if anybody knows what they're talking about, is if they say that you're flushing out lactate, or your lactate is an acid and is causing fatigue. um like it's like that's not what happens. Like you can inject lactate into someone and they will perform better. They will have a longer time to exhaustion. um but it's the hydrogen ions or potentially changes in ionic balances as it relates to potassium. And those stimulate nociceptors. And there's also like things like prostaglandins and intracellular like phosphates that break out of muscle as they get damaged. All of those things cause pain, and they just correlate with blood lactate. And so if you train enough, you train your body to be like, I don't really care. Uh, and that's basically what you're doing with your training at some point.
You're building that central reserve.
Yes. So I know that's another thing you guys wanted to talk about.
Danny,
Are
did
you
you watch
familiar
that?
with that at all?
I was
Central
not.
Reserve. Is that like from the Alex Hutchinson book,
So
Endure? Does
Tim
he talk about the
knows.
central? Oh yeah, yeah. He talks about Tim Noakes and yeah, the Central Reserve.
Mhm.
He's a South African researcher, right? Tim Noakes.
Yeah. Yep.
I thought that
So
was
one of my
so interesting. Yeah.
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 So that study is probably my favorite study I've ever read. And
So
I
does
have a
this
lot of
have to do with the central governor theory of?
yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Right. So 100%. So I think the original study, Steve Magnus just talked about this. Um, One day I want to sit down with Steve Magnus and just like pick his brain to see if we like agree on things or don't. I don't know. He might
Yeah.
hate me. I don't know.
He
Some
seems like he seems like a grumpy Gus. So
Yeah, like I'd be curious to see. The dude I have a bone to pick with right now is Peter Attia. He just like overstates
Yeah.
everything and it irritates me.
Do you
Uh,
know Brady Homer? Do you know who he is?
mm-mm.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think maybe we should have you guys on at the same time. You guys will get along really well. I think Danny,
Oh,
you think you would.
he must be in the space. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like very new to social media, guys. Like I know that sounds
Are
maybe,
you really?
yeah, no, I started my account in August. Like,
you should check
Wow.
out Brady. We'll connect you guys. I mean, if we had you both on the pod at the same time, it would just be too much science for my
yeah,
brain. So
your audience would tune out. That actually is like something I have to balance often in my videos. Is like, ooh, that's gonna be a little much. They'll just
Yeah.
like flop if there's too much.
all right, Central
But
Reserve, Tim Noakes.
Central Reserve. So Central Reserve is this idea that you have more than you think you have, right? So Central Governor theory, we make jokes. Tim Noakes gets a little bit of flack in the exercise physiology field because he's like done this study that's really, really cool where he had people exercise to like maximal exhaustion and then he took their muscles and he stimulated them. And there's a bunch of different ways to do this, but he basically showed that even after exhaustive exercise, when you stimulate muscle with the same stimulus, it will still contract with the same force. So think about that. You are
Whoa.
completely exhausted, and yet you stimulate the muscle, and it will contract with the exact same force as it did before the exhaustive bout. What that suggests is that your muscle is being protected by your brain, right? When you override the brain, you stimulate it electrically, your muscle will contract with the same force. That is mind blowing, right? Because if you finish an exhaustive workout, everything in you tells you that that's impossible. That how could that be? Um, and so that's where the central governor, like that's where it is. That's like where it comes from. Um, and so the central reserve is this idea that you can tap into that, right? To some extent, you can override your central governor. You can and that will allow you to obtain higher exercise intensities. And the idea in general is probably that the central governor is protective, like most things, like pain is protective, right?
Yep.
People who don't have a pain response, they don't live very long. Why? Because they get infections or sick or whatever, and they don't know that they're sick.
Yeah.
So um, the central reserve is just that when you're in a race, the example I use, right, is you have two people and you're having them do these time trials consistently against like Zwift or whatever, this person on a screen, and you've tricked them and you're like, oh, by the way, that's Frank and your name's Joe and you need to beat Frank. Turns out it's just Joe from like 2 weeks ago and he's racing himself, but he doesn't know it. And so Joe blows Frank out of the water because he thinks that he's racing someone else, but he's literally racing himself during a time trial. And that's proof that like when you're in a race setting, that's when it just comes together. It's because you're so excited, you're in the race, you have adrenaline, and physiologically what happens is you're able to tap into your glycolytic reserves more. So I don't mean like glycogen. That is a fuel. What I mean is your glycolytic reserves. So you're running aerobically, you run hard, you start to become um, quote unquote lactic, right? You're generating this fatigue. If you ascribe to critical power, then you're working into what would they call your W prime or your work prime. It's a fixed reserve that you kind of have access to. So Chris, when you talk about the matches, right? It's like, oh, you're starting to burn matches, and you're not going to get them back. Um, and so uh, what that means physiologically is that your glycolytic system, the system that operates to produce energy without oxygen, just goes on hyperdrive, and it allows you to continue running at a rate despite the fact that you have more metabolic byproducts, which are going to cause fatigue. So you have more inorganic phosphates, you have more creatine that is generated, you have more hydrogen ions, all of these things, but you can keep going, right? That is central reserve. It's you're using that to run faster.
Danny, you raised your hand.
Yeah, no, you kind of answered my question, the glycolytic reserve. So I was thinking about like a car that runs out of gas. So, like a car engine that runs out of gas cannot operate if you don't have any energy to it. So how are the muscles getting the stimulus to but you kind of answered my question there, because like they're not technically out of gas. It's the
No,
brain saying, don't do this anymore or else you're going to
right.
hurt yourself.
Yeah. And so there's this idea of critical power that ties into all of this. Are you familiar with critical power or critical velocity at all?
I've heard the term in terms of like a type of
Yeah.
like pace
I'm
workout.
familiar with CV. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it's how you measure it is, and I'm going to do a video on this, so I'm going to give you a little teaser. But
Okay.
in 1923, I think it was, or no, 1925, August Crow, he's like, he won a Nobel Prize. He's like the godfather of physiology. He took a bunch of marathon performances by distance and he just created a plot. And he said, okay, here's the distance that they competed on the y-axis. Here's the time it took them to do it on the x-axis. And he just plotted those out. And he did it across tons of distances. In fact, he was such a nerd. He looked at data from lungless salamanders and other animals and was like, what are their power reserves? And basically what they find is that there is a universal principle, physiological principle, that power and time to exhaustion form they're curvilinear in nature. So at really high powers, time to exhaustion is very short. And if you continue to drop power and you do a time to exhaustion test, it'll be slightly longer. You drop power, it'll be slightly longer. You drop power to be slightly longer until at some point you drop power and time to exhaustion does not change. And it doesn't change, and it doesn't change, it doesn't change, it doesn't change. And basically it goes infinitely. And it's not really infinite, but if you were to take that intensity at which any increase in power takes your time to exhaustion from infinity to some fixed number under an hour, for example. Like in classic studies, they raise power by 5%, and they show that people's time to exhaustion goes from infinity to 24 minutes, right? So that is critical velocity. That's a real threshold. And the intensity is somewhere between your lactate threshold and your VO2 max.
Mm.
Okay, it's about 50% of the way. Okay, so the problem with this is it's very hard to calculate your VO2 max velocity or your VO2 max in reality. So an easy approach is just to do a 6-minute run.
Yep.
Run as far as you can in 6 minutes and then calculate the speed. That's probably your velocity at VO2 max. And if you know what your threshold intensity is, just take the 50% point. That's your critical velocity. And so that's the intensity at which you are going to experience progressively more oxygen consumption despite maintaining intensity, right? And that's what that video starts to hint at, is this slow component of oxygen uptake. It's very complicated if you're not familiar with the metrics, but it's a really, 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 really important metric, because you can basically reap more physiological benefits without the like physical anguish of running at 450 pace with 2 minutes rest, right?
Yeah.
Like that sucks. No one wants to do that, like unless you're good. But like,
So you're
does that
saying
make-
that critical running workouts at critical velocity pace can get you almost as much benefit as running at VO2 max pace, maybe even more, because you can do more volume at CV.
Exactly. That is exactly the right idea, right? And now there's obviously limits to that, right? But what happens is, as you do more and more reps, your oxygen consumption, despite you staying at the same pace, is progressively rising.
Mhm.
And so this is one of the problems with the Jack Daniels video that I posted. That was actually like a random lecture from like Winston-Salem's running club in like 2013. Sometimes I
down the
find
road,
these
isn't it?
yeah, sometimes I find these videos and I'm like this is a gold mine. But it's so good. So
He thought into to kind of describe the video you're talking about. He talks about running a VO2 max, right? And so
Correct.
if you go out too hard, you're not going to be able to run as much as VO2 max
Yes.
if you would otherwise, if you pace it
Yeah.
perfectly. Which
So
kind
in
of,
quick
go ahead.
So in quick summary, it takes about 2 minutes to get to your VO2 max
Mhm.
at when you're running at a velocity that equates to your VO2 max or faster. Doesn't matter. It takes about 2 minutes. When you run too fast, though, you start to tap into that reserve, right? And so you've burned a match. You're not getting it back, which means later in the workout, when you go to run that VO2 max, you can't run that intensity. And so instead of getting 12 minutes, I think the example he uses is you should have gotten 12 minutes or 15 minutes at your VO2 max, but instead you got 9.
Yeah.
And that is huge, right? That's like a 33% difference. So that's the key, is to maximize that time spent at VO2 max. The problem with that video is that you could really run at 530 pace or 540 pace. The example he uses is a VO2 max of 530.
Yep.
You could run at 540 pace and your oxygen is actually going to start to drift upwards as you get from rep to rep. And so eventually you will just hit VO2 max sooner, despite the fact you're not running at that VO2 max intensity. So that's like some of the nuance. And if you ever look at the comments, like I get a lot of like, well, actually, and
Those are the best people.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
I just like, sometimes I just am like, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Well,
Yeah.
welcome to social media, man. It's one of the joys of trying to spread and talk about something that you love. So let me ask you this: in terms of threshold, CV, VO2 max, which of
Mhm.
those are you throwing away in the trash, and which are you putting on the pedestal?
Ooh,
Like,
great
this is
question.
the thing
That's a
oh,
fantastic question.
yeah.
The answer is none. So as
Okay.
you well know, right,
Wait, that's not the rules. Come on.
yeah, but I'm gonna say it because
Okay.
all of those are good for different parts of your build and for different events, right? So if you're running, um, let's say you're running a marathon, like if I'm to prioritize these for a marathon, right? Which am I going to prioritize? I'm probably going to prioritize your LT1, so threshold 1, which isn't even on that chart, right?
Yeah.
So that needs to come. You need to be as specific as you can get close to your race. So that's like the gold standard, is like, you to run a marathon, you have to run at marathon pace. Plot twist. To run any race, you have to run the pace that you want to run. I think some people look at Jakob Ingebrigtsen's training, and right now threshold is like all the rage, right? Everybody's like, you just do more threshold. That's what Jakob does. And I'm like, yes, but Jakob also does speed work, and he just doesn't talk about it.
He
Like,
doesn't talk about it. Yep.
no, he does 200s, he does 400s. Like, he's
Yeah.
not just doing threshold. Like, I
Yep.
assure you of that. Um, and then, like from there, I would work in reverse. So I would say, then I'm probably gonna go with like some. Actually, I would probably do VO2 max stuff, probably like 8 weeks out, and then threshold before that, um like your LT2. And so you're increasing your work capacity, you're maxing it out, and then you're going to come back and you're going to touch in on your threshold again, but you're going to do it more specifically, right? And you're still going to work in some of that threshold and VO2 max stuff, but for marathon, LT1 is like, between LT1 and LT2 is kind of your bread and butter. If you're doing a mile, 5K, for example, VO2 max, like you should be doing VO2 max reps, because at least like closer to your race. And some people would say, you don't need to do that, just do all threshold. And I'm like, you're saying that, but you're not actually running threshold. I assure you, I've worked with collegiate athletes, like they run too hard. Like they're running VO2
Yeah.
max pace.
What about if you're trying to work on like the central reserve? Would VO2 max serve that better?
Um, like, are you just saying like, so remember
You want to
the
get
central,
grittier as a runner. You want to
yeah,
get
you want to get
tougher,
grittier.
but more pain tolerance.
Right. Then you should be doing like VO2 max and then some like extensive tempo or into like special endurance, right?
That is
So
the tempo
so like
stuff.
if you want to be tough as a runner, just do like 600 at 800-meter pace with like, or 500, and take like 5 minutes and then do it again. And like you will be the toughest human on the planet. You'll also hurt your Achilles and hate your life. Um, but I would argue that like some of the sessions I use to work on that, what we call like physiological resilience or psychological resilience, this is something that Andrew Jones has talked about a little bit. So for context, for those of the that aren't in this space as much, so there are kind of like different um silos, so to speak. And so, like, one silo that I really ascribe to is David Poole and Andrew Jones. Those are like two people that I absolutely love. I think their work is awesome. If I could meet David Poole, I would. If I could shake his hand, I would say thank you. I just like, I really, really like a lot of his work. So
Is he an
he,
old guy with a monocle and like a mustache, or
no, but
is he
like
more recent?
he does have an accent. He's like, I think he's, I want to say he's like Irish or Scott. I think he's Scottish.
Okay.
When he says where he grows up, you can't even pronounce it. Like it doesn't even. It's like not in the English vernacular. Like it's, and you can't even read it. Like the letters are ridiculous.
Okay, I like that
Um,
he's Scottish. It's bonus points. Probably plays
yeah.
the bagpipe
So
or has a relative. Know someone who does.
yeah. So
Yeah.
he's just fantastic, and he worked under a guy named Peter Wagner. I think he was under he worked with Peter Wagner. He was at UCLA, and basically their whole line of work is on like blood flow, right? And how blood
Mhm.
flow works and how oxygen gets delivered. And they're super nerds. Like they basically use math and biochemistry and animal experiments and human experiments to like demonstrate that like this is what you want. So Andrew Jones is in that same vein. He's published with them a lot. I think he's in the UK. And uh he thinks that the most important metric is like this psychological resilience, or I think he calls it psychological or physiological. And I haven't read the paper yet, but from what I can probably guess is it's just that like that will to will, right? Like the ability to push when things get hard.
Yeah.
Um, and so, and this comes back to full circle to the moment I was talking to Chris about coaching, and you, Danny, about coaching, is like when you're working with an athlete, so much of it is designing sessions that prepare them for that race.
Yeah.
Like,
Specific event. Yeah.
yeah, like you want them to hurt, and then you want them to do it. Like, all right, you're going to do 10 miles and then you're going to run 10 miles in MP. Why? Because I want you to get tired legs and low on fuel, and then I want you to run what you're going to run in your race. Or sometimes I'll have people do something I like to do is like I'll have them do like a few hard 800s and then a mile at MP. So I'll be like, all right, you're going to give me two 800s at VO2 max. You're going to take 30 to 40 seconds rest, and you're going to give me a mile at marathon pace. And the idea there is that you're training them to like hurt and then run marathon pace, because when you get, I presume, I don't know, but I think I will quickly find out, when you get to 19, 20, 22 miles, like like from everything I've heard, you're just like, just put one foot in front of the other. Like,
Yeah. Focus.
um,
Yeah.
I've learned to like, through marathoning for a while now is like a big thing of it is just like one, just pacing smart. Like don't do anything silly the first half. And then just like you got to nail the fueling. That's like the most critical thing that I've had to learn the hard way is like 75 to 100 grams an hour is like usually enough to prevent a bong. I do 100 and dude, game changer for me. Like,
so I've practiced probably up to like 60 to 70 to maybe even 80 an
that's
hour.
fine. Yeah. That's
Well,
But like,
yeah, I've always read that like 60 is the most that your body can actually process anyways. And beyond that, it's probably more of like a psychological like indicator that your gut is getting more fuel so you can release more glycogen.
yeah.
Would you agree with that or
Yeah.
what's the research say?
So like the upper limit of absorption is 1 gram per minute. So that's 60 grams an hour. And so where that number comes from is actually related to gastric emptying. So it's how quickly your stomach, it's not actually even your intestines. It's how quickly your stomach can get the fuel from your tummy into your intestines. That is the rate limiting step, which surprises a lot of people because they think it has to do more with absorption, but it's really like how quickly can it drain out of your stomach. And
Hmm.
so I haven't read the research on this. There is one guy, Rossner, I think is his last name, Rossner Performance. He talks a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
about fueling. I don't know if have you guys had him on the podcast?
No, but I like what he puts out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to think that we're arch nemesis, but I would love to work with him. I mean, he seems cool. Um, no, we kind of do similar stuff, but he
Yeah.
he talks a lot about gut training, and I don't know if
Mm,
that's a thing. I don't know if physiologically you can do that. Like I don't know, but
Yeah.
like maybe I don't
Yeah.
I don't know, but
yeah.
generally 60 grams is what you take. Triathletes are always on the cutting edge of like if you want to know what we're going to be doing in the marathon in 5 years, look at what triathletes are doing right now,
Yeah. Tour de
and they're taking
France. Yeah.
100. Yeah, exactly. Like EPO, for example. Um,
Yeah.
they're taking like 100 grams. Some guys are taking more. But
Oh
you
yeah.
are right. Like you can only get so much into your system, and you can calculate how many grams of carbs you need, because you only hold 2,400 calories in glycogen, 2,000 in your muscle, 400 in your liver, and 2,000 is roughly 20 miles, right? That's why you hit the wall.
Mm,
So you need at least 700 calories, 6 to 700 calories, depending on how much you weigh for the last 6 miles. And so in 1 gram of carbohydrates, I think it's like 4.1 calories. Okay. So if you just take 700 divided by 4.1, you get how many grams of carbohydrates that you need, but you need to take those like earlier in the race. So,
yeah.
I think for me that equals out to like 160 or something, 160 grams over the race. So, I would take like every 20 minutes, I'm going to take a Morton's, even though I think it's like the worst tasting, most god awful texture. It just slips down your throat like a snail.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
is
Yeah. It's
that, is
like they don't make it easy to take. I don't know. I don't know why. It's like
No,
yeah.
I think it's made of alginate, which is like it's either a seaweed or an algae like hydrogel that we use in like biochemistry for drug delivery actually. It's like
Mm,
pretty easily digested, but it's like disgusting. Um,
Yeah. I don't like chewing. I have to chew on those. That's why I switched to a different brand because like I like a more liquidy gel that I can just
what
swallow.
what are you taking?
I use Carbs Fuel. I don't know if you've heard of that. They're 50-gram gels, so you just have. I take just two an hour.
It's
So
too late
whenever
for
like
me, Chris. I'm
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm unfortunately screwed and locked in. Do you take them with water?
yeah. I try to. Yeah, it's not like a requirement for sure, but I like to take them like yeah when I have water cup in hand, just easier to get down. But they're pretty easy to get down without water. I have no problem in training doing that. But yeah, I just like them. They're like just two an hour, 50 grams in each, and they're more
yeah.
liquidy, so I like them. So.
So to that point, like um so to like wrap this up, like wrap that like thought up, like when you take goos or gels, right? The max, like with the max absorption rate that we tend to see, I think, is between 6 to 8% glucose. And now a lot of people are introducing fructose into the system. And there are studies that show that like you can use fructose like more quickly because essentially it has a different cell surface transporter, so it can like pull the fructose in differently than the glucose, so you're not saturating those receptors. Um, but fructose can be like really hard on your stomach. So
Yeah.
like I'm curious to see what happens with that movement. Only because like fructose can like it can hurt your belly. So
Yeah.
but you want to take water usually because you want to dilute it so that you can actually get it in sooner. But with Morton and some of these other ones, they're like, no, no, it's already like at that perfect ratio or whatever. But
Yeah. I think Morton says that you don't necessarily have to take water with it. So
yeah, but I tried. I tried doing it without water, and by like halfway through, my fingers were sticking together, and I was like, I don't feel like
yeah,
this.
that's a given. Yeah, sticky hands. Then the marathon classic.
More aerodynamic.
What other questions did you guys have? Is there anything else or?
I wanted to ask if you had any running hot takes. Is there anything in the
Mm.
mainstream right now that you think is total bullshit, or if you
Oh,
think that something's underrated, maybe?
oh man, yeah, this is so good. This is such a good question. Um, I think. Oh, dude. Okay, have you guys heard about this like fascia thing? Like this fascia mobility,
Is this like the
functional.
scraping?
Oh no,
Scraping?
grafting is also BS. Don't do that.
Okay.
But yeah, don't do that. Like it's just gonna like it's gonna hurt and it's not gonna do anything. Just roll out. You'll be fine. Um, no,
What is it?
it's like functional movement patterns or something like that. It's just like this ridiculous idea that like if you can't do these weird movements, then like you're a bad mover and you're a bad athlete and you're gonna break your back and all this stuff.
Right.
And it's just like total hogwash. Like it's infuriating because it's just made up. Like it's just not real.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing I think is that's like way too overhyped is like zone two training. Like
Mm,
I think it's a great
yeah.
reference if you're new to the sport, but like
100% agree with that take.
yeah, but like if you're looking at your watch and constantly looking at your heart rate, like you're missing the point. Like no good runner says to themselves, I am running and my heart rate is 148 and it should be 146, so I shall slow down. Like like I made a video on this, but like when you run, your heart rate naturally drifts upwards because you get dehydrated. Like it's just what
Right.
happens, right? So in theory, if you're fixed in zone two, you should be getting slower as your run goes on. And you're not going to do that, like, unless you're really tired. So I think the zone two stuff is too overhyped. I think the threshold movement, I think I would call that a movement, like the double threshold stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I think what we're going to find is that it's less about like, I think the idea that you need your blood lactate to be like between 3.5 and 4.5 or whatever his range is just not founded. Like it's just not it's not that sensitive. And I would say that in most things, if you read the literature, and this is where like people the classic pitfall is like if you read the literature or you talk to exercise physiologists or even like people that have been doing it for a really long time, like for 99.9% of people, you just need to run a lot. Most of your miles need to be easy and some of it needs to be hard. Some of it needs to be specific to what you want to do.
Mhm.
Like that is like that's pretty much all you need to do.
It's
So
hard to mess up. Yeah, it's hard to mess up.
like I mean if you're just consistent and healthy, you're fine. So like I think that is way too like this like oh you gotta have this like perfect intensity perfect whatever and like if you're running too hard or you're running too easy or like all that stuff it's just like
Yeah.
just go out do the work if it makes sense if you can fit 2 sessions in a day like I did double thresholds for this marathon build. I wish I had done them. I wish I had kept doing them. I did them for 4 weeks. um
It's rad.
and yeah, and at the end of that 4 weeks like I was fit. Like I did that 8 by mile at 5:20. I think I did 7 by 2K, 7 8 by 7 or 8 by 2K with a minute rest and worked from like 5:28 to like 5:10. And I was like, oh, I was like, this is the most fit I've ever been in my life.
Dang, that's awesome.
And then I was
I've
like,
never heard of a 2:40 marathoner doing double T's at that pace.
well, that wasn't a double
You
T.
were
That was
sandbagging
just
so hard. You
that was the end of my that was like the end of the build, right? So like,
Yeah.
okay.
but I was wearing, I wear super shoes every session.
Yeah,
One,
okay. So super shoes. Okay. Look,
yeah, like
if,
I
if
mean,
I wear super shoes, maybe I too can run 5:10 pace for
you
7 by
could.
I was
2K.
gonna say you might be in sub 230 shape, man. You might
No,
be
no,
sub
I'm
230 shape.
not. I'm not.
Mask.
That would be great, but I'm not. Trust me, my marathon workouts have shown me that the minute I run like sub 5:56 pace, I'm like, nah, this feels hard. Like I don't think I'm doing it right. But I also my heart rate never goes over like 160, and I'm like, maybe I am sandbagging it.
Yeah.
Like I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Um,
You got to run your
What?
first one, and then you can kind of figure out from there. I think it's pretty tough
yeah.
to. Yeah, you just got to get that first one done, then you can kind of figure out the next one.
Another hot take I have is
Yeah.
if you're not working out in super shoes, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Ooh, interesting.
Ooh, that is a hot
Okay.
take.
Tell me why.
So those shoes permit you to run faster. There's no there's no arguing it in any way, shape, or form. Okay.
Okay.
One of the things that that shoe does is it increases the impulses that your body experiences, right? So every time you hit the ground, it hits back harder. Okay. And so
Mhm.
you lose less energy. Okay. And so that moment is called amortization. Okay. So it's the moment you go from an eccentric, your foot is hitting and stretching, to a concentric, you're pushing off. So that transition from eccentric to concentric, you could draw a curve of what that looks like. And if you look at the Kenyan to, I think it was like Ryan Hall and Kiblima, or I can't remember who the other person was. If you look at those curves, right? If you were to look at those curves for somebody running in a super shoe and running in a trainer, they look vastly different, right? The super shoe is going to be tighter and it's going to be higher. And so that's going to allow you to hit higher impulses and higher velocities, higher takeoff velocities with every step. That's what happens. That's why they work. And
Okay,
they
so
reduce.
what is the just explain this like to me like I'm 5. What does an
Oh,
impulse
sorry.
do? Like what is so like I velocity meaning turnover, meaning like
No.
you're
So
thinking? Sure.
literally it's like a bouncy ball. Like imagine if you took your leg and it was like, or imagine if you took a bouncy ball, right? And you had
Yeah.
one bouncy ball that was like just not very elastic, or it was like didn't bounce very high, right? Or take a flat basketball. This is a perfect example.
Yeah.
You take a flat basketball, you bounce it, right? You have to push it down harder to get it to come up as high,
Okay.
right? Now, if you take a basketball that's really filled up, it bounces really easily. Okay.
I see.
Those are the super shoes. So now some would say, well, that your body's not doing the work, the shoe is, right? They'd say, well, the ball is doing the work, not your arm. And I would say, you're correct. You're doing more work in the shoe that sucks. But if you do the same amount of work in the other shoe, you're going to have more, like from a physics perspective, you will have done more work as a human being. Like like the physics of it, mechanically speaking, you will have traveled farther and faster. You will have traveled farther in the same amount of time. You will have done more work. And so it's the same theory behind creatine, right? Creatine for resistance training, it increases, you might get 1 or 2 more reps. Well, if you do that for 8 weeks at a time, 8 weeks in a row, you've now done like 30 more reps. Well, you've done more work. And if you've done more work, you'll get more physiological um, uh, response, right? Or
All right.
adaptation.
I want to fully understand this and possibly push back by or just ask a question and clarify. So
Oh, by all
work
means.
work is a physics equation, right? And I don't know what the equation is, but it's something like
Force times
math.
distance.
Force times distance. Okay, great.
Yep.
Force times distance. So force times distance, that is the work that you're doing. However, like the effort is going to be different if you have 8 by mile at 550 pace and that's your threshold. You're doing the same amount of work in a with a stronger effort, with more effort than if you're not wearing a super shoe, if you're wearing a
Well,
dumb shoe, right?
well, keep in mind though, you wouldn't run them at 550, right? Like if I said like
You could, you just
you
might be
could,
above threshold.
but at that
Let's say
point,
you're
like,
capable of doing it.
right? But that's my point, right? that's the point I'm making, is like you wouldn't go and run 550 in super shoes.
Okay.
You'd go and run 540. And so that's what I mean by you're doing the same amount of work in less time,
Yeah.
right? And so the other thing is it's very mechanical in nature. Like the forces on the tissue are higher.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of the mechanics of the shoe, like it's like running on grass versus pavement, right?
Yeah.
The
So
impulses on
for me, it
pavement.
just doesn't click for me that you would be in better shape by wearing super shoes doing that if you were running 540s and having the same amount of effort. Does that make
But
sense?
you wouldn't. Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying, but I think you have to think about which variables you're controlling across the board.
Okay.
So like let's take VO2, right? So like if you fix your VO2 at 60 milliliters per kilogram per minute,
Mm-hmm.
and you're wearing super shoes or you're not wearing super shoes. If you're in super shoes, you're going to be running 4% faster.
Yeah.
Okay. The reason you are going to run 4% faster is because the impulses on your leg are higher.
Yep.
You're running on a stiffer substance. So
More
your
inflated
tissue,
ball. Yeah.
exactly, right? So your tissues, your tendons, your
Mhm.
muscles, your connective tissue, collagen, all that stuff. Well, collagen is a protein, but it's within all that other stuff. It is going to adapt to that higher impulse. It's going
Okay.
to adapt more than it would for
I
a
see.
lower impulse, right? So it's more about the mechanical. It's
Makes
more about
sense.
the mechanical elements than it is the. Oh, it's also neurological too,
Yeah.
but like you're learning to run faster. There's a learning thing. That's actually where most of the adaptation from high mileage programs come from. Now, Jack Daniels was actually, people think that he was like the VO2 max guy. He's actually the like running economy guy. That's like his thing. That's why if you read the running formula or you look at his 800 training, he always has them do 4x200 on the front and 4x200 on the back. And in the middle, he has them run pace. And so his theory was like, you need to run as much at pace as possible. Um, and so, and why? Because you're neurologically learning how to run better. Brad
Mm.
Hadfield at Maryland, he was also like really in this space. Um, and yeah, so that's my theory. Now I
Yeah.
recognize it's a hot
Okay.
take, but
No, I like the take.
that's my take. Chris,
Oh,
what are your thoughts?
you defended it well, by the way. That's a great take.
Ah,
Oh, no, I like to take. I mean, I pretty much I always work out in carbon plated shoes now. I think I just get more out of the workout when I have them on versus when I don't, and I recover faster when I have them on as well. So I think it makes sense to wear them. I would
I also
recommend it.
just feel like, like if I wanted, I could like rip cigs after the workout and be like, it's fine. I wore my super shoes.
Yeah.
Perfectly recovered.
That's a thing now. That's this next social trend we're gonna see Dr. Bill
Dude, yeah,
on.
yeah. If you want to improve your pulmonary performance, you need to do this. No.
People are doing that,
Um,
man. I see people
That's a
smoking
great hook.
cigarettes and marathons and stuff. Yeah.
maybe that's what I'll do. Is that the secret sauce at Richmond?
Yeah, it could
Rip it
be. Yeah.
cigs.
Yeah, hitting
Um,
darts at Richmond.
ripping darts.
Blowing darts, man.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what you guys else you have. I hope I did this the right way. I've never been on a podcast, truthfully. So I've done it with my brother a few times, but we're identical twins. So
Oh, so cool.
yeah, so he's a jumper and a sprinter. He got me into the social media space. He's the only reason I'm in this space. He was like, dude, you're really smart, you know your stuff. He was like,
100.
just start making content. He was like, don't even worry about it. It could be trash. And my early stuff was. And so in August, he was like, his name was like August 1st. He and I hung out. He runs a business. It's called Translating Human Performance, or THP. He coaches professional dunkers, like Isaiah
Oh, wow.
Rivera is like his guy.
What?
And so he's got like 2,000 athletes that he coaches. Yeah, I don't know how he does it, but they do it. And they have like the model, they have the system. And so he was like, look, just start posting and like making social media content, and like that'll help you to get clients. And
Yeah.
so in August, I was like, all right, well, I'll do the only thing I know, which is like to talk about the research of running. And so I've really only been in like the social media space for like 3 or 4 months. Like I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm just winging it.
You're doing a great job, man, and you're making the internet a better place for publishing your thoughts and online. So thanks for doing that, man. Like I saw your stuff, and you're one of my favorite running follows on Instagram.
Oh,
So thanks
Danny,
for that.
dude,
Great.
Yeah,
this warms my heart. Well, I want
keep it up.
to I want to say something to you guys. I will say that the community that you guys seem to have created, or like at least the perception of the community that I see, is
It's an
amazing.
illusion.
Dude, no, it's freaking sweet. Like
Yeah.
I think I saw like one post where it was like Chris came into the bathroom or something, and they were like, "Dude, what's you go by like a nickname, right? You don't go by Chris, you go by something else."
Yeah, my last name's Streagle. They call me Streak. Yeah.
Okay, Streak. Yeah, they were like, Streak, you came into the bathroom, like, what's that water in your shirt? And you're like,
Yeah.
you said something witty, like, what I do in the bathroom is like my own, like,
Yeah, I was like, what happens in the porta potty is my own business. Yeah.
yeah. And it's
Uh,
just like the rhetoric around that, and just also like the build up to Indy and like the shakeout run and like all that stuff. I was like, oh, dude, these guys are like cool runners. Like they set the standard for cool. And like running is not inherently cool. Like I think we'd all agree cross country in high school wasn't, at least in my school, was not like the popular kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
same.
Yeah. It is kind of cool now, with all these.
I cut out for a sec. But I feel like you guys like do a really good job of just like making it cool. Like it makes me want to like come to one of your group runs. I'm like, I want to be there. I want to be one of the guys. I want to
do
do
it, man.
inside
You
jokes.
do it. Come. Please
Yeah.
do.
We'll let you know our next marathon that we're picking out for the spring. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do it if I survive this one.
You will. You're gonna crush. I'm predicting 2:32:27.
Dude, Danny, that's like
Let's go.
247, dude. I'm gonna say 236:50. That's my guess.
That's
Okay.
6-minute pace. Right on
So,
6-minute pace.
yeah.
I like it.
That's my
Solid.
guess. I'm gonna shoot for 6, and I'm just gonna pray to my gods halfway through. Like,
Beautiful.
Cool.
All
Let's wrap
right.
there. Where can we find Dr. Bill Evans on the internet? Plug your
Yeah.
links and socials.
Yeah. So I am literally Dr._Evans_running. That's my Instagram. Come check it out. All I do is talk about science and running. And I'm always looking for new content. So if you guys have ideas or you have stuff that you want me to cover, shoot it my way. I'm always happy to talk about something new or learn
Right.
something new. So thanks again for having me. I really appreciate it. I hope that this turns out to be decent and not super boring, but I guess we'll see.
That was great.
This is my favorite pod we've had in a while. So thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, it was
We'll,
great, man.
we'll
This
do
is
another
really
one
great.
soon.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's some other topics. There's definitely other topics we can cover with you that we didn't get to. So we would love to have you back on soon. So let's do it.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks a ton.
Yeah, man.
All right,
Appreciate
man.
it.
All right. See ya.